Now, here's correspondent Greg Dobbs.
This is Johnny. He could be a killer. He was either trained to kill other dogs or kept in captivity to breed dogs that will. And this is Ted, another pit bull raised for only one purpose, the blood sport of dog fighting. Johnny and Ted were part of the most notorious dog-fighting ring law enforcement has ever uncovered, the one led, until his arrest 1 year ago, by the star NFL quarterback, Michael Vick. But Vick's arrest hardly brought an end to the blood sport. Just the month before last, in what's believed to be the biggest bust in history, these fighting pit bulls, almost 150 of them, were confiscated from 4 concealed kennels around Tucson, Arizona.
Some of them were living in absolute squalor. They had all sorts of health problems. They had scars from probably, years of fighting all over them.
The question is, what now for these damaged dogs whose whole lives were focused on fighting? Where do pit bulls that have known nothing but violence and abuse, where do they go? Some say the safest option is to put them to sleep. But people like Christine Allen and her husband Rob think they have a better option. They are a foster family for one of Michael Vick's fighting dogs, Ted, bringing him home to live right alongside their 2.5-year-old son, Sam.
You have to make sure that all your dogs, whether it's a poodle or a yellow lab or a pit bull, is going to be okay with the kid.
But you obviously are not of the belief that there's a greater propensity for the pit bull not to be okay with the kid.
Oh, no.
No.
Probably the general impression in this country would be if you are acting as a foster family for one of Michael Vick's dogs, you're going to have to take the fight out of him before you put the love in.
He didn't have any. Yeah. He didn't have any. As I was telling you before, my little one, if he's learned he doesn't touch the little one because she gets really mad.
The little dog.
The little dog.
How about little Sam, 2.5 years old?
He doesn't really mess with Sam either. Every once initially when he first started getting his freedom in the house, and he would run up to Sam and lick Sam, and Sam would say ah, and then he would just bound on his way.
But there are dog experts who think they're taking a big chance with a little boy and a dog trained only to fight in the same house. Patty Mahaney manages the animal shelter where many of the dogs from the Arizona fighting ring ended up.
Children are small and they run down the hall squealing, and that is a prey response to an animal. So a prey response may elicit a predator response in these dogs. And because their jaw strength is so strong, because they've been bred to hang on and not let go, not give a bite, but to hang on and not let go, the effects of such an attack could be really severe.
But just like the Allens, Chris Cohen feels perfectly comfortable with Johnny.
Good. Good boy, Johnny. Give me a sit. Come on. Good boy. Can I have a look?
Come on, babe.
Come.
Chris and his girlfriend Jennifer Long also act as a foster family, which now makes 2 pit bulls in the house.
Good girl. Ready to go out for a walk? Go to the park? Go to the park?
Chris and Jennifer feel absolutely safe around the new pit bull they've taken in. And it's obvious the Allens aren't scared of Ted. While many Americans will think they're out of their minds for rescuing dogs with a reputation for ferociousness,
Come on, buddy.
both couples believe that treated properly, these dogs are so loyal and so smart, they can still make superb pets and deserve the chance after the hell they came from. Like the beatings, shootings, hangings, electrocutions, and drownings that killed as many as 3 dozen other pit bulls caged up and considered spent in Michael Vick's ghastly Virginia kennel. Vick now lives in a cage himself in the federal prison at Leavenworth for being part of the felonious and ferocious underground blood sport of dogfighting. But stopping him surely didn't stop dogfighting. The Humane Society estimates that even though it's illegal in all 50 states, 40,000 people all over the country are still mixed up in organized criminal dogfighting rings. And when they're broken up, 99% of the dogs seized are pit bulls, like these from the fighting ring in Tucson. These were kept in awful conditions, just like Vick's dogs, inside a maze of metal and concrete, with what law officers who raided the place called an appalling smell. Thanks to the February raid, one of the biggest breeders in the country was arrested. The dogs were removed. And when Humane Society veterinarians examined them, they found that some suffered chronic medical conditions like arthritis that had been ignored. The manager of the shelter where they're now being kept says some of these dogs even had paws infected from standing in their own waste, not to mention scars from fierce fights.
If they were checked for any signs of fighting, any lacerations, scars, sometimes they break the teeth out of the animals.
Many, through no fault of their own, might never be judged appropriate for adoption and therefore might never live outside their cages. Yet they're certainly better off than they were. They now get regular feedings, clean kennels, and no more dog fights. There are animal rights activists who believe that the most humane and the safest thing to do with former fighting dogs like these is to put them to sleep.
Dead.
Yeah,
But families like the Allens say adoption is a much better option, and they don't see it as an unsafe risk. To the contrary, they say their dogs all get along just fine.
Lucy, come here.
Except when the mutt, Lucy, loses it. But none seems a threat to little Sam, and Lucy's the one that starts the ruckus, not the former fighting dog, Ted.
A normal, stable pit bull, back in the day was the nanny dog. Families would leave their kids, the pit bull would take care of the kids. I mean, granted, it's not way back in the day, but there are still plenty of normal, stable pit bulls around that do just that.
But some experts say while most pit bulls, like Lily and Johnny here, the two with Chris and Jennifer, while they behave as well as any other pet, it's the nature of a pit bull to be aggressive. Since the term pit bull often applies to several types of dogs with similar characteristics, any study about them is controversial. But statistics say that anywhere from 1/5 to 2/3 of fatal attacks on humans in the United States are by dogs like these. Especially scary when you realize they don't make up anywhere near 1/5, let alone 2/3 of the dog population. And Michael Vick's dogs, given their history of abuse, would seem likely to be especially dangerous.
All right, well, that's
But the owners don't buy it, not even when there's a small child like Sam in the house.
And you guys obviously have no apprehension at all that suddenly something's going to snap, that it's going to feel provoked and
I don't think
do
that
what people expect
I don't think that
pit bulls to do.
that they just snap. I mean, you really have to pay attention to where they are and what signs they're trying to give you since they can't talk.
Mm-hmm.
And where Sam's concerned, I mean, with any new dog, we watch, pretty cautiously for a while until we get to know the dog better.
Right.
It's very important with regard to aggressive animals to know that all is not lost, that it's not sort of a character defect in the dog. It may very well be just something that can be, with some diligent behavior modification, completely turned around.
Jean Donaldson says people who take pit bulls from dogfighting rings into their homes aren't nuts. She's the author of a book about the relationship between humans and dogs.
You believe that if they've been abused and don't trust people, which could make them more aggressive,
Yes.
that can be taken out of them.
It's
You believe if
possible.
they've been taught to be aggressive, that can be
It's
taken
quite
out.
possible. It's also quite possible that if they have a genetic predisposition to be aggressive, for instance, towards other dogs, which is, part of what can often be inside pit bulls, that can be toned down, it can be modified in some cases, and certainly can be managed in terms of, let's not expose the dog to other dogs. One of the big myths going about pit bulls is that they are inherently aggressive towards people, and this is just not so.
Look at this guy right here. Hi. Hi, sweetie. These dogs right here, they are bred to be dog-aggressive, people-friendly. Hi. Hi. Hi, sweetie. But don't let this behavior fool you. If put with another dog, they will fight. That's their selected play behavior. They'll wag their tail and they'll go out and